And there's a back one too. That's really sweet. Alrighty, now we're going to talk about the voyage of the Beagle. This was a ship commissioned to survey the South American coastlines, to sail all the way around and to chart new territory that never was not known about at the time. Darwin was very fortunate to be invited as a naturalist, and he had some contention in his family. His father didn't want him to go. He didn't support him at all, but he was persuaded eventually, and then Darwin got to go on the Beagle. The first place they stopped was the Tenerife Islands, but they weren't able to go there, which upset Darwin. He really wanted to go there, but there was a cholera outbreak. They had to move on. So they went to the Cape Verde. You'll see that in the very middle of the Atlantic Ocean there. And that's where Darwin first was absolutely enamored by nature that he'd never seen before, and made observations, particularly in geology over in the Cayman Islands, or Cape Verde Islands. At one point he was studying the cliffs and noticed that seashells were 45 feet above the sea level in a cliff. And he's wondering, how the heck did they get up there? And this, along with other observations, led to his belief in Lyell's theory, or to consolidate Lyell's theories, that the Earth is much older than we thought it was, that it changed shapes over time, and it's probably millions and millions of years old. The Cape Face and Cape Verde. Here's a map of the voyage. It went down. After Cape Verde, in the middle of the Atlantic, stopped in Brazil, in Bahia, Brazil. Here, Darwin goes inland and makes all kinds of observations on things he's never seen before in the jungle. Here's a quote. "Delight is a weak term to express the feelings of a naturalist who has wandered by himself into the Brazilian rainforest. If one follows the flight of a gaudy butterfly, it is arrested by some strange tree or fruit. If watching an insect, one forgets in the stranger flower that it is crawling on. The mind is a chaos of delight." Everywhere around him, he's seeing new things he'd never seen before. He's a biologist. He's studied medicine, and he was a naturalist from early age. So he's in the jungle, absolutely surrounded by all kinds of stuff. It's just blowing his mind. So he's making collections, collecting everywhere. He's collecting rocks, plants, animals, insects. He loved beetles, and sending them back to England for analysis. Also in Brazil, he comes into contact and makes his first notes on cultural happenings in South America. He detested slavery and quarreled with the captain. Captain Fitzroy said that the slaves enjoyed their treatment and that they were living better off, and Darwin opposed that. He absolutely hated that. After Brazil, they made their way further on to Argentina, the area of Patagonia here, which is really good land for preserving bones and natural material. Here is like a paleontologist's dream. You find whole entire animals encased in dirt. You just come to it, you dig around it, excavate, and it was a dream. Here, Darwin finds his passion for fossils. Here he starts sending fossils off, and there's all kinds of new species, things they've never even known to science, all kinds of new breakthroughs. Weird, funky-looking beasts like this guy right here, and that guy. And see strata, raised layers, more evidence that the Earth is extremely old. After they sail around the east coast of South America, they come up the west coast, and Darwin made 3 journeys up into the Andes Mountains. Really treacherous journeys. I don't know if you guys have ever walked a mountain, but I haven't. He makes numerous of these journeys into the inland. One major thing that happens, I think he was in Valparaiso or something, I think in Chile. A devastating earthquake shakes every city around him, all kinds of death, bad things happen. But a good thing that, if you could say, comes out of it, is Darwin's making his recordings, and after the earthquake occurred, there was a notable shift in islands. Some of them had raised as much as several feet, sometimes like 8 feet, which just shows further that the Earth is continually growing, mountains are getting taller, and it's further giving proof to Lyell's theories. After his 3 journeys to the Andes, he swings over to the Galapagos, or the Beagle swings over, And they study, and here it's just absolutely mind-boggling because there's diversity like we've never seen before. There's a set of islands, and each one has their own such intricate ecosystems that you have just absolutely different species in a really small cluster of land, of the earth. Anyways, this confused Darwin in some parts and made him really excited. It says the natural history of this archipelago is very remarkable. It seems to be a little world within itself. The greater number of its inhabitants, both vegetable and animal, being found nowhere else. Alrighty. So right here at the bottom of this quote, you hear him say that birds, which I suspect are very curious, he didn't realize that he was studying birds that just seemed all over the place, different styles. Their beaks are different shapes, they have different wingspans, different sizes, and it's in a really small area. They were so different, he thought they were different kinds, blackbirds, mockingbirds, and finches. But upon further analysis, a bird specialist named Gould, an ornithologist, figured out that there are actually 14 kinds of finches, not 3 different families of bird, but just one, all adapted to their specific needs in their little environments there. So it's a really intricate system of ecosystems that Darwin stumbled into, and this sparked all of his thought, or a lot of his thoughts on evolution, and it was his evidence. Seeing the gradation and diversity of structure in one small, intimately related group of birds, one might really fancy that from an original paucity of birds in this archipelago, one species had been taken and modified for different ends. And here we see beaks that have become varied, Some are really skinny, used for picking seeds and trees, and then down to the really big ones that are seed crushers. Or, I'm sorry, the first ones are insect eaters. Anywho, after the Galapagos, the journey wasn't finished. They sailed across the Pacific into Tahiti, New Zealand, Australia, Tasmania, Cocos Islands, across the Indian Ocean, and to South Africa, back to Brazil, and then finally back to England, all the while making biological collections, sending them off for analysis, geology, and some anthropology too. He commented on, he came into contact with different indigenous groups at the time. And so that's the beagle, in really short description. This is what he used as evidence. His notes, his collections and everything all support his theories of evolution. Alrighty, and now we're moving on to natural selection.